Looks like something is wrong with GitHub. So on this stream, I'll just be continuing work on that OSCAR piece of software. The idea is to have a general software quality assurance tool that's more user-end focused, that doesn't depend on unit tests or integration tests, something that normal quality assurance people can use. For something like user acceptance testing, this can end up being a nice utility. Also, it's my way of writing some Java effects. The library has been around for quite a while, and sadly, I haven't experimented with it as much as I was hoping to. Back in the day, I got so used to writing with Swing. So Swing has been the main tool that I've depended on for this kind of work. But slowly transitioning to JavaFX and using that to experiment on building desktop software. This project sort of serves as a gateway to that. So I'm just waiting for GitHub to load. I'm hoping they don't have an outage like they usually do. Just check. Okay, seems to be okay. Okay, we're good. So I have a few issues open, and on the last stream, in the previous streams, I've been working on one particular issue regarding the summary cards. So these are status cards that show you the status of a product based on the checks. So the way the software works is you register checks for things you want to verify before you roll out a new release, and it basically acts as a repository for those checks, so that whenever you're doing a release or you're doing some sort of acceptance testing, you just run through that list. And for every release or every version of the software, you're able to see the number of checks that you have for that release. And as you run through checking whether any functionality is broken, you can get a summary of the current state of the product. So that is the dashboard that I've been working on in the previous streams. Just has, I think, 4 or 5 cards. This shows the number of features. This one shows the general stability of the system, and this is calculated based on the checks. I'm calling them verifications in the software itself, but the number of checks that you have and which checks actually passed. So you have active checks. For example, with this demo account, you have 217. Checks that have been verified is 196, and pending checks 21. So an example of a verification is, for instance, in this feature, you can see there are some verification checks. This just checks a few checks whether particular components of the feature actually work. And you can register this based on the design of the feature. And then, so once you establish that the checks work, you mark them and they form part of that statistic. Yeah, so this is what I was putting together. And I feel like it's done. So today I'll be picking a different issue. There's plenty of issues to work on, but one that has been affecting, because I'm sort of using this software for my own work as well, so I'm building it as I use it. And there's a feature that I added that allows pagination. So instead of listing all features in bulk, you can see them in pages. And so like this particular product has 42 registered features for quality assurance. And the pagination is supposed to work that you don't have to list all 42. You could just move to next, and that will load the next set of features. Maybe I can expand this a bit. Yeah, so you click on next, just like in pagination thing, it sort of works the same way. But the count pagination summary is kind of off because in the first page, we are showing 1 to 9 features, which is correct. But when we move to the next page, it's showing 2 to 9, which is inaccurate. This should be 9 to the next count. So, and this is also 3 to 9, which is invalid. It should be a different value. So it should increment based on the number of features you've scrolled through. For now, it's just showing the pages, which is when you match them against total features, it doesn't make much sense. If we're matching this against total number of pages, it would be sensible, but against total number of features, it doesn't make sense. So hence, there's this issue that I opened. Yeah, pagination displays display shows incorrect count for pages. So it's just a simple fix, or at least I hope it's a simple fix. So I'll attempt to fix it by fixing that pagination logic. So all of this is Java and JavaFX, if anyone is wondering. That's what this is using. So maybe first to find the piece of code that handles the pagination. It's definitely in the features dashboard, perhaps features listing view. So here I'm using a simple VBox. It's a layout manager that arranges items from top to bottom. So it's actually very convenient to work with. An equivalent on other UI frameworks like Android, this would be linear layout with the vertical orientation. On Swift UI, this would be VStack actually, kind of a similar name. So on Swift UI, this would be VStack. On Android, this would be linear layout with vertical orientation. I can't remember the equivalent on Swing. I don't know if I just remember there was JFrame, but I don't know which other layout managers are available. But I'm using VBox here. And in this view, I can see we have total items count. So list view content, this is the list view that shows the features list. Made it a global variable because this is loaded after the UI has been loaded, or rather it's updated sometime after the UI has already been loaded. So you kind of need to update it outside the default constructor that we're using to initialize the view here. So I'll occasionally be checking the chat. Okay, so far no message yet, so no problem. But if you have a question or there's something you want to say, just type on the chat and I'll be happy to respond if I'm able to see it on time. Yeah. Okay, so back to this. So I'm looking for that pagination logic. So there's a feature list view header. This is the actual list view. List view contents. Yeah, this is the page summary showing that of that. I think that's showing 3 of that to 9 of that. So I think that's the bit I need to fix. So you have your page range label and off and total items count. So this page range label is what is affecting what's displayed. So begin my investigation with that. So this, okay, so this is using pages instead of item count. So I think I'll change this so that it's showing item count instead of the number of pages. Or I could do showing page 3 of 9, but that would still be inaccurate because I don't think it's even counting the pages. Let's see. So to run the application for testing, I'm using a bash script. It's a simple script that just runs maven clean verify and the package face, and then it executes the jar file. So you could do this manually for every test, but it's convenient to have it in one script that I can execute. So let's see the behavior here. So to register a product, you just set a product name, and then you specify the target. You can use whatever target you want, but there's some inbuilt options to pick from. The form doesn't look really nice. I haven't really focused on improving its UI particularly. So taking a utilitarian approach. Okay, so when we move to next, so it just shows 2 of 9. Let's see, at least it gets the number of pages correct. Okay, so this gets the number of pages correct. So we could still use this and change the display to the label to indicate that these are pages and not item count. So perhaps page prefix with the page label, perhaps that would help. And get rid of the total item count. I don't know. Let me see how Google does it. Okay, so Google just shows the pages, not the item count. And there's that next button. So this is actually much more simplified, but I don't know if it will work for my case. Let me consult some design. Let me see if I can get some design inspiration. Mobile design pages. Pagination. So it looks like most designs go for page count instead of item count. And you can change rows per page. I don't know if I want to do that. I'll probably just stick with page count. Maybe I could add this back and, okay, we already have the back and forward buttons, previous and next. If I took this and moved it in between previous and next, I don't know, that would probably help. And maybe stylize the current page a bit more. Maybe that would be nice. And then I can get rid of that 42. so that we focus on the number of pages instead of the items. Let me try that. Okay, so next page, so these are the buttons. Yeah. So init features is called it's called after the screen has been drawn. So most of these have already been set up. So I'll go back to the constructor to see how they are arranged. So the previous and next button are in a H box. This H box, page buttons. So I'll want to make this a general purpose container to host the previous and next, and also to host the page labels. And if I want to keep this showing label here, perhaps not, I'll just stylize the current page. So one way to fix code is to first break it. So I'm going to just see. So this houses the page buttons. I'll go ahead and get rid of this. So if you get rid of that, that means the showing label, we will no longer be using that. The page range label, we'll be using a single label. Instead, we'll have two labels, one for the current page and another for the total number of pages, and that off prefix. Yeah, I'll probably, okay, I can also get rid of that. We don't need it. Total items, yeah, definitely not using this. Okay, so we are not using any of this. So I'll probably start with a case where we are left with just the previous and next button. Get rid of all of this, and then move the page count in between the previous and the next button, and probably use icons for that instead of text. So page buttons view, previous and next button. Didn't intend to get rid of the page buttons view. Did I? So page summary, page buttons view. Okay, so I'm just getting rid of this, but I've removed it by accident. Page summary, getting rid of that. And page selection is probably the primary container. So the page buttons view, set left, yeah. So that's the primary container. So it's a border pane, which means we're able to place items either on the left or the right. So it helps with this alignment, where if you want something to be on the extreme left or you want it to be on the extreme right, you can use border pane for that, which means you can have this empty and still utilize border pane. So we don't need this left item anymore. That should do it. So we should only be left with the previous and next button, and they are in this page buttons view, which is a H box, and we set right, which puts them at this extreme right, and let's run it. Let's go. Yeah, so we got rid of the labels, and now we're left with the previous and next button, and they work as expected. So the only thing we need to change here is to introduce the page count and the total number of pages label. Those can be two separate labels. Perhaps I'll rename this to describe its new purpose. Page status container. So it will have the previous and next. It's a H box, which means you can add the other labels. Current page label. I'll use text for this, but I could as well use label. I haven't gotten to understanding what the difference is between like using a label and text within JavaFX. It's not very obvious what's the difference in capability. Because you can still update a label after creating it, and you can do the same thing with the text. And also there is a separate text field, so doesn't make too much of a difference, but perhaps there's some functionality I'm not aware of. So current page, then total pages label. That would be that. And initializing some placeholder values. So let's say current page is page 1, and this is of 21 pages. And we just add them in between the two status buttons. And I'll add the total pages label. Okay, I think that should work. Just need to initialize them here. So like I explained, the reason they are global variables is because the actual page count is done after the UI has been loaded. So you need a way of updating it much after the features listing. This features listing view has already been initialized. So making them global makes that possible. Current page label is equals to new label, and total pages label is equals to new label. Which reminds me, I can't reinitialize them. Instead, could just update the text. Total pages, set text 21. So I can get rid of that. Okay, that should do it. Okay, let's see what we get with that. Okay. So once we established that the pages label works, then I can go ahead to update them with real values. But knowing they're in the right place and they're displayed correctly should be a good start towards getting that done. Okay, that looks good. So the only thing that I need to do is just maybe change the font a bit and do some highlighting for this. I could take this design approach where we have a box surrounding the current page. I think that would make it a bit more interesting. But first, let's get the page. Let's get some padding and margin, and then modify the font a little bit so that it's not just on the default font, and maybe change up the icons as well. So current page, set font. So the way we set font is there's a static function in font that allows you to pass in the name and the size. You can also pass in the font family, but I'm not being very particular about the fonts that I want to use. So I'm not really worrying too much about the font family. So it's just the font size. The other thing that's probably important is the font weight. So you can use medium, you can use bold. So later on, when I've decided what kind of actual font family I want to use for this, then maybe I'll update these. But for now, I can just leave them empty. So since these two will sort of look the same, I'll just duplicate that. So we have the current page, we have the total pages, and we've set some font there that 21 we can work with. Let's just run it and see. So JavaFX doesn't have live reload, which means every time I change the UI code, I have to like rebuild and run the whole project. So this is very different from working on mobile applications or web UIs. The tooling is very limited, so you don't get a lot of stuff that you would get on most of those other platforms for free. But the thing that makes it fun is it's Java. So anything that has Java in it is definitely more exciting. Even if you have to like rebuild the project every time. So I need to add some spacing between these. Current page, yeah, I won't be able to do it there. So I could utilize the same spacing that I'm using for the buttons. So current page label. So insert is the equivalent of margin in UI frameworks. Then total pages label. So they'll share that margin. So with this, you use a static call to hbox set margin, which is strange. Most UI frameworks you actually either call the view itself, like and that the total pages label, and call a set margin function, or you would call the parent and invoke set margin on it. So like the container, then we'll do set margin. But with the JavaFX, it's a static call. So JavaFX will auto discover the parent container, which is page status container. So when you pass in a child and set margin on that child, JavaFX will automatically find the parent container and apply the margin. The margin here is insert, where you can define the top margin, bottom, left, right, yeah, the way you do it anyway. So the only thing here different here is you don't set margin directly on the child or even the parent. Let's see how that looks. Okay, so there's some spacing, but perhaps there's too much spacing. And also it would be helpful if I separated this off prefix from the total pages, so that if we're applying spacing, they would have an equivalent amount of spacing. Maybe that would look better. So let me just space them. So I will have total pages label. Let me have the off. So I won't be changing this later, so I can just have it as a local variable here. And this is the off prefix label. Same font. Also, another thing about HBox and most of the containers, I think HBox and VBox is the items are arranged in the order with which they are inserted. So it follows insertion order. So if you want the previous button to come before the next button, when you're adding it to the HBox, you have to add the previous button first before the next button. Which I think is how most UI frameworks actually work. So this is not unique to JavaFX. So I just need to add the off prefix here. So we get the off prefix, and then we have the total pages. And now off prefix has its own margin, so should be able to get some spacing between off and 21. Okay. So yeah, so now we have equivalent spacing. So perhaps I can, yeah, let's get them to update as we scroll. So the way we do that is we'll go to the init features button, and since they're global variables, we can update them as the user scrolls. So when you scroll, this init features button is continuously called. I think we can see how that happens. So when you click next page button, which is this button, it will increase the number of pages, basically move you to the next page, and then it will call init features, which is this function. And what this function just does, it goes into persistence layer, which is this config function, and it retrieves the next set of items from it. Yeah. Okay, so what I did was I just went to the init features function and I added the part of the code that will update the current page label and the total pages label. So every time we scroll to the next page or to the previous page, those labels will be updated, or at least they should be. Let's see if that works. So the features are persisted as JSON, so multiple JSON files. So that's why I have to import. You have to import from the directory that you register the product with. So that will contain all the verifications and all the features that you registered for that product. So that's why I'm going to my own. That's why I'm going to my file system and importing that every time. Since I'm rebuilding the project for every test, I sort of have to go through that cycle. Yeah, so you can see the pages are updating. So that should be good. So then the next thing we probably need to do is change this into back and forward icons, sort of like this. Or maybe I can start by stylizing the current page so that it looks different. I won't do much for it. Perhaps just let me give it a different color. Because I think the reason why this is sort of inside a box so that you can click on it and insert a page, and when you submit it, move you to that page. But I don't want to do that. It will be overkill for this because we just need a simple way to move through pages. And I also don't expect these features to ever be too many for most use cases because you sort of have to register them manually. So I don't think there'll be that much that you'd want to scroll to a very specific page. Also, there's support for filtering. So you can filter by verification progress and by feature name. So that makes this less of an make this less of an emergency. So one-stop shop for icons. My favorite place is flat icon. I'll look for the forward arrow, chevron actually. Okay, can use this and make it white. I think it will fit in that UI. Mm, 64 is okay. Back chevron, same color. Okay. So I'll just import those into the project, and the best place to put them is in the resource directory here. And I wrote this tiny utility function for importing them a little bit earlier. It's one of the previous streams. And what this just does is guess the file name. So you give it the image file name, and it will go into this images folder, and it will pull the image. So you can use this to import any file that you stored in the resource directory. So the resource directory is usually read-only, because once you package the jar file that we're executing, you cannot write into it. So jar files act like a zip file. So it's not like your app directory where you can add and remove files from. You cannot modify it at runtime. So you can only read from it. So that's where these items will be found. So I have a few icons here that I'm already using, so I'll just add the ones I've downloaded. Again, this is very different with the mobile development, because in mobile, if it's iOS, it's probably, if you're working with iOS, it'd probably be using SF symbols. So you don't have to go to flat icon to download icons. Android is a bit different. There's some inbuilt icon selection tool, but it doesn't work really well. So most people are still on Android still want to probably get icons from your designer, or you likely download them from flat icon or somewhere else, or create them yourself. So iOS development is unique in that sense. SF symbols really makes things more friendly, especially when you're working with icons. I'm just looking for those two files. Okay, I think I got them. Okay. There they are. So this is the back arrow. Just rename it to chevron back. And this is the forward arrow. Chevron next. And we can use them in the UI. So this will go into the previous and next button. So looking for the initialization for, okay. Okay, finally hit something I'm not very familiar with. So if I was working with the mobile framework, the button would be able to host both a text label and an icon. I don't know how JavaFX handles this. Let's just see what. So there's this constructor that receives a text label and a graphic. The graphic is the icon for the label. And it's a node, which means I could probably pass image here, or image view, and that would qualify, because node is like the superclass for all JavaFX views. Let's see what these docs say about this. So base class for scene graph nodes. A scene graph is a set of tree data structures where every item has 0 or 1 parent, and each item, okay, we don't care about that. Okay, so each item in the scene graph is called a node. So every particular thing you see on this on the screen for when you're working with JavaFX, on your GUI, on your graphical user interface, everything is essentially a node. So the nodes are placed on top of a scene, and that's why you get this scene graph concept. So I'll just try and see whether there's a setup function we can use apart from the constructor, because we want to update this after the button has been initialized. So perhaps somewhere next button. Let's see. Next page. Let's set icon. Oh yeah, set graphic. And here we can pass in the next icon. And so the next icon in our case would be an image view, so that it qualifies as a node. So the image we pass in the image, you can set it later, but you could also pass it in the constructor. So let's try and retrieve the image. So s icon load result. I'll go to UI commands and load the image. So this function it returns a result. Pass in the file name. The file name is our chevron next.png. Then I'll check if this succeeds. If it succeeds, we should get a success status. Result.success, and with that success, I'll have the icon. So if we have the icon, then we can update the image. Okay, it seems to have worked, but the icon is extremely big. But we can always set the image size, because this is an image. What we're getting if this operation succeeds is JavaFX image. So using var, but the signature is still present there, so it should still be understandable. So on this image, I believe we can set the dimensions. I think I can set it on the image view, perhaps. Yeah, set fit width. So perhaps I want to use 22. Then the height be 22 as well. No, what am I doing? Okay, so what we are doing is we are initializing an image view, then we are loading the image using this utility function, which just goes to the resource folder and retrieves the image. And once we have the image, we check that that operation actually succeeded, because it's a file IO operation. So might fail for various reasons, like using the incorrect file name. So we have to check that we're actually able to load the image. If we're able to load the image, we cast that into an actual JavaFX image, and we change the dimensions. After that, we pass the image to the image view. Once it's ready, we pass that image view to the next page button. That concludes the cycle. Let's see. That does what we hope it does. Okay, yeah, it sort of does what we hope it does, because the size has reduced a bit. We still have the next label. I wonder whether we should keep that. I don't think we should keep it. I'll just get rid of it. So just remove it from the initializer. I think we'll do the same with the previous, and then let's set the previous icon as well. So back to this. So we essentially be doing the same operation. It will be the same operation, but I'm trying to structure the code in a way that makes that clear. Previous icon is equals to new image view. So that forms our image view. Previous icon load result equals to UI comments dot load image, and with this we are loading chevron back png. If that succeeds, if previous icon dot result is a success, not that kind of result, result dot success, then we can retrieve the image. It's local to when we use instance of this icon is local to this scope, so we can reuse the variable name. Yeah, so I was saying I'm just about to end the stream. We are past 1 hour, which is seems like enough time. Of course, with this, I always do them. I usually do them on a daily basis, or at least as of recently, I started doing them on a daily basis. So wherever we have left this, I'll likely be able to resume that tomorrow. And if you have the time or the motivation, you can join that stream and see where this goes. Set image. So I've essentially just done the same thing we did here, except we are doing this for the previous page button. Set graphic, previous icon. So that should be it. Let's see. Okay, let's see what we have here. Okay, yeah, we have our next and previous buttons, and they work as expected. The styling is not that great. Maybe just a small padding issue. Could push this label a bit low so that they are in line with the buttons. Because I was using the same inset values for the button as well as the label, I was actually expecting that they would be in line, but it seems they don't occupy the same size, so the label in between seems to be much higher than it's supposed to be. It should be at the center, should be aligned at the center. So I can do this manually by pushing them down. I can push them down using the stop margin, maybe half of the total margin. Half of the total margin should suffice. Okay, seems to have worked. Just need to do it for this off prefix label as well. Yeah, so it looks like I've met the requirements for fixing this particular issue. So I'll just do one more test and then I think I'll close it. And on the next stream, maybe we can work on another issue. Okay, looks good. Not the most well-designed pagination UI, but I think I can live with this. Yeah, this works well. So I'll just comment this. Okay, let me just look through the diff first before I commit the code. Okay, so we added to these two other buttons, and we added the icons. The insets, nothing strange on the div. Very clean div. And then just commit, and I won't write the commit message. I'll just use what we already have here. Issue ID is number 36. You can include the link to number 36. But I don't need to, but it's just fun to include it. And I can push that. Okay, so yeah, there it is. Made it to GitHub, and yeah. Looks good. So then I can just close this issue. Close the issue. Okay, that is the end of the stream. See you guys again tomorrow for the next stream. I'll pick one of these issues to work on. The GitHub repository is here if you want to check it out. github.com/samuelowino/Oscar, and you'll find all the source code for Oscar there. If you want to contribute, just pick an issue, open a pull request. I'll be more than happy to review it and give feedback, or just merge it if it is awesome. Yeah, still plenty of issues to work on. So this has been nice. See you guys on the next one. Bye bye.